We're talking all about stand mixers today. I have 4 stand mixers. Now you may be wondering, why do you need so many stand mixers? Okay, so first of all, my kids run a cookie business. And so we have used a combination of probably 2 or 3 of them for years, making thousands of batches of cookie dough. That's the first thing. And the second thing is that I run a website, amybakesbread.com. I develop so many incredible bread recipes, but a lot of sourdough recipes. And so I use these mixers all the time for different types of breads. We're going to talk all about everything that these mixers can do. How will they handle whipped cream, cookie dough? How will they handle like a regular sandwich loaf, a brioche, and even sourdough bread? So this is gonna be helpful for you. I feel like the goal of this is for you to see how the mixers perform and make a decision. If you've been eyeing a new mixer, or you're looking to upgrade, or you just wanna know if a mixer would be right for you, this is gonna help you figure that out. Let me introduce you to 4 of the mixers that I own. I want to tell you the pros and cons of each of them in the hopes that it will help you to become a better baker or to find the mixer that's right for you. So we're going to be talking about the KitchenAid, the Bosch, the Ankarsrum, and this one is a new one, the Ooni Halo Pro. Let's talk about a KitchenAid. I've had a KitchenAid for over 20 years, not this exact brand, but many different models of them. I have had 2 KitchenAid motors that have completely burned out on me. A KitchenAid, in my opinion, is not for a lot of breads. It does okay with small batches of breads, but they do not recommend mixing for more than like 2 minutes at a time for a total of 4 to 6 minutes. Okay, all of that's in the blog post if you want to read more about that. But that to me is kind of a, you know, it makes it so that this machine is not for heavy bread use. But it does a great job at cookies. It does a great job with frostings, whipped creams, and I love, right here, you can add a lot of attachments. So I have pasta. I actually have a video on my sourdough pasta. You can see how I use the attachment there for that. And so I love all the attachments that come with it. This is kind of my go-to when I'm making cookie dough. This is the one that I prefer to use the most if I'm making a large batch. It comes with these 3 attachments. You've got a dough hook. They just attach right onto here, so it's really easy to use. The bowl is dishwasher safe. These I hand wash. So I use this for bread. I use this for like batters, or even when I'm doing my pancake mix. I make a pancake mix. I'll use this guy, or shredded chicken. This works really well for. And then this is for frostings, whipped creams, things like that. It just plugs right in. It's got controls on the side here. You just turn it on. So it's really easy to use, and it does make a great mixer. The only thing about it, make sure you're getting one that has the bowl lift, because those have the higher motors, and you want a higher motor on this, and you don't want the motor to overheat. It's happened to me before. I don't want it to happen to you. First, I'm going to show you how this KitchenAid can make whipped cream. I honestly think whipped cream, frostings, this is really where a KitchenAid can shine. And so just in a few minutes, you put in your cold whipped cream and it turns creamy, light, fluffy, and really just beautiful. So I really do like whipped cream in this stand mixer. Next up is cookie dough. I really do love the KitchenAid for cookie dough. It's really easy to use, and it does a really good job of mixing up the dough and creaming the butter and sugars together really well. So I want you to hear how it sounds too. So here's the sound.
Dry ingredients. Gorgeous.
Next up is this bread dough. Like think cinnamon rolls, sandwich bread, that type of dough. You put the dough hook on and you kind of knead it up. The problem is you're not really supposed to knead for very long using a KitchenAid. I didn't even show this with, adding butter into here like for a brioche, because I would not use this mixer for that type of mixing. And last, let's check out the sourdough. So this is a wetter, higher hydration dough. So it actually does a pretty good job. You can use a dough hook, you can use the beater attachment because it's a wetter dough. Either one of them work.
So I think that you could do small batches of sourdough in here. You're not going to be mixing them for very long. Let's talk really quick about the price point. These are expensive mixers. Currently, 2025, they're about $650 for a good quality KitchenAid mixer. So it is a definitely higher price point mixer.
This is a Bosch mixer. I've had it for about 9 years. I love it for many reasons, but it really is a workhorse when it comes to dough, especially those sandwich loaves and maybe a little bit lower hydration dough. Does the other doughs well too, but that's, I feel like, where it really shines. When you go and you buy a Bosch, it actually comes with some wire whisks that you can use to make frostings and things. And then it comes with this dough hook. And it comes with a little extender to help, so you can add that. I almost never use this, but if you feel like it's riding up the center column or something, you could add that on there. You can also buy some cookie dough paddles and other things. I actually don't love these because you can see here that they're plastic and they strip. Once I made a batch of cookie dough and it stripped and got plastic shards all into my dough. I had to throw it all away. So I just don't use these, but I do make cookie dough in here. I just use soft butter and I use the dough hook and it works. So let me show you. This bottom part comes out, you attach it in, and then stick it onto your machine. It locks into place. This goes right on top. And then it has a cover that you can put on it as well. So it makes it really easy if you wanted to add in flour or something as you're mixing up your dough. I'll turn it on so you can hear what it sounds like. It has a couple different speeds here. It's fairly loud. It also has this part where they sell other attachments and things like that if you really got into the Bosch. All in all, I think that it's a really great mixer. When it comes time to clean it, these things are machine washable. This I wash by hand. I always take out the center part and wash the bowl. This can go in the dishwasher, and this I wash by hand. It does take up a little bit more of a footprint. You can see it's a little bit bigger, so I tend to keep this in a cupboard and pull it out when I want to use it. These are the wire whips, and you can stick them right in like this. It goes straight onto your center part here, and then I'll show you how I turn it on. So you can imagine this actually does a really good job with like buttercreams and whipped cream, so I'll show you with whipped cream. In goes my whipped cream. I once made a Italian meringue buttercream in this. It was so light and fluffy. I like to put the lid on when I'm doing initially like these whipped creams because it can splatter. Put the lid on. Okay, not even 2 minutes. Gorgeous whipped cream. Here's the Bosch mixer when I'm mixing up cookie dough. So put in attach it onto the base. Now there are special cookie dough paddles that come with a Bosch. I don't know if they're in the baker's pack or if they come automatically. You may have to purchase it separately. But these cookie dough paddles you can use. You attach them onto here and then attach it right into here. So you can see, I'll turn it on so you can see how that works. I actually don't use the cookie dough paddles when I'm making cookie dough. We've made hundreds and thousands of batches of cookie dough in this mixer, but I don't use these. And the reason is because I have had this part, it's plastic. See right there, that part has stripped off. And so I, one time was using it with cold butter and the plastic shards went all in my dough. I had to throw everything away. So I don't use these. Instead, I just use the dough hook that it comes with. If you use soft, super soft butter, it works completely fine with the dough hook. How soft that butter is. is looking good. Like I said, I use this for so much cookie dough. The only thing is to just make sure that your butter is soft. But it can make a whole lot of cookies in here. Probably, I think I said 80, but it could even be 100, like 2 tablespoon size cookies. So that's cookie dough.
I think that bread dough is really where the Bosch mixer shines. I've had this mixer for so many years and it still works just as good as it did the day that I got it. So it really does a great job of quickly getting the dough together and getting it nice and strong as it mixes. You can even see I'm adding butter in here. And it does take a little bit to come together, but after a few minutes, it's all incorporated and you have a beautiful, shiny, silky dough. So it does a really good job of mixing up dough. Now let's talk sourdough. This is a wetter, higher hydration dough. Honestly, it's not my favorite mixer for sourdough, but it does do a decent job of mixing up the dough. It just sometimes can kind of ride up that center column a little bit. You may want to get like a dough scraper to go on there as well. Price point, this is usually about $500, but often you can find a good deal with an online coupon code.
This is the Ankarsrum mixer. It's a Swedish brand, and it really is it's a really great mixer. It looks really nice on your counter. It comes with a bunch of different things. So this is the one that is used a lot for breads and doughs. And then they also send you this cookie paddles and wire whisks are somewhere. And when you do the cookies, I'll show you a little bit later, frostings, you set it in here like this and attach them that way. But I actually don't use that part very often because you can see this is not as big of a bowl as this one. And you can actually make cookie dough with really soft butter in this one as well. So here's how you add the mixer. You just put the bowl on. Okay. They also send you use this roller and scraper. That's how this mixes. It does like this gentle kneading motion that kind of mimics like pulling and stretching the dough, which helps those gluten strands to form. They also send a dough hook. I feel like if you're going to use the dough hook, it's better for like a brioche or like a more enriched dough, but I still use these typically. So let me show you how you attach these on here. It's really simple. You just add the roller in, and then you take the scraper and put the scraper in, and you can adjust this part as you're mixing. You can even lock it into place. I do feel like it's a little more hands-on, but it does have an open bowl. So you're able to pour things in, which is really a nice feature. If you want to be able to kind of get your hands in there a little bit and work with the dough, I feel like this works really well. And then I'm gonna go ahead and plug this in. There's an on and off switch, and this shows like how fast it can go, but it also has a timer down here. I can set my timer for up to 12 minutes, which is typically what you're gonna need for most doughs. You can turn it off. That's the Ankarsrum. The Ankarsrum bowl, and this is what you can use to whip up like a whipped cream or something like that. It sets in there. These come off really easily, and they just kind of stick in there, and then this goes on the top. I had already started mixing up this butter. So let me show you how it goes. Okay. Look at how thick and fluffy that frosting is. So this is a great bowl for frosting. And in case you're wondering what dough I've been making, these oatmeal cookies are on my website, and we're doing a little cream pie right here. Oh, okay, that looks really good.
Time to mix up some cookie dough in the Ankarsrum.
feel like the butter often gets stuck in these. I just feel like I have to be a little more hands-on in general with this mixer, but for cookie dough, especially. Cookie dough and the Ankarsrum.
Next up is the bread dough. We're talking cinnamon roll dough again, like a little bit lower hydration dough, sandwich loaves, things like that. And I do love the built-in timers that they have, so you can set the timer for how long you want the dough to need and adjust how much the bowl turns and things like that. It does a pretty good job, actually a really good job. It just needs in a little different way. I love the open bowl, but I do feel like I have to be a little bit more hands-on, especially with this lower hydration dough. So you can see as it mixes together, how you kind of have to, get in there a little bit as it needs. But it does a really great job, like when you're adding in butter and enriched dough. I really love using it, and it looks beautiful on your counter, and it really does perform very well. I like the way that it kneads the dough. Look how beautiful that dough turned out with that added butter in there. So it's a really nice mixer. I really feel like the Ankarsrum shines when it comes to like these wetter doughs. So kind of like the sourdough, you still have to get your hand in there a little bit. And this is a higher price point mixer. It's about $800, and I rarely see sales on the Ank.
Last but not least, the Ooni Halo Pro. It comes in 2 colors. I picked the white because I feel like I always pick the white appliances. This one is pretty cool. It's brand new, so the only thing that I would say is we don't really know the longevity of it, but Ooni is a really good company. I've had their pizza oven for a long time, and I've had really good success with their customer service. It also comes with a 5-year warranty. So it's just something to know if you choose to go with this model. You lift it up like this on the sides, and then it's got the bowl in here. And the interesting thing about this model, I'm gonna pull these out, is that it has this breaker bar, and it attaches right in here, and you screw it on, and then you add in your dough hook. So what this does is it actually helps to, and it helps to just give the dough a little more structure, and so it doesn't ride up the dough hook, and then this bowl turns around. So we're gonna close that here. You turn it on in the back. It has a light up feature, which is pretty cool, and then up here at the top, you can choose what RPM or percent. Turn it on, or you can just push the button, turn it off. It does have a fan that goes as well, and then you can actually set your timer all the way up to like an hour, which that's crazy. So if you're making a panettone or something like that, this would be an incredible mixer. I'm gonna show you a little bit later how it actually mixes, how it works. But in general, I've been super impressed with the Ooni Halo Pro. It does have a top that can fit on there as well. I kind of like to put it on like that. And so that's really nice. You can add and pour liquids in there if you want to. And then it comes as well with this little beater that you can attach. And so really, it's a great mixer. I'm gonna show you a little bit more about it, but I think that it's definitely worth considering if you're looking at a little bit higher end stand mixer.
So the first test that I did was with this whipped cream. And honestly, it didn't go all that well. You'll see here as I'm mixing up the whipped cream that it really took a long time. I actually did this like side by side with the KitchenAid, and it was no contest. The KitchenAid was much better. But I decided to like add in some butter to this eventually, and I just made a frosting with it. And so it worked pretty well for the frosting. The whipped cream, not quite as well. It does have that little cover, which is really nice, especially if you're making it go really fast. And I like the functionality of all of this. It's fun to use, and it looks beautiful. For whipped cream, it just didn't turn out quite right. but I added in some butter, and then I was able to get like a really nice frosting consistency. Moving on to the cookie dough, this one performed much better.
Pull it up, and then we're gonna put in their attachment. Add in our butter. And we have to turn this on in the back. It does have a light that comes on, that's kind of fun. Kind of nice, especially if you're working in the dark. And then you can just go ahead and decide up here what % speed you want, or actually goes by RPM also. It does have like a little kind of a bump up in the middle there, so things tend to get caught there, but all in all, this is mixing the dough really, really nicely. It's not quite as fluffy as the KitchenAid, but I think it's doing a good job. Okay, there we have our cookie dough. It comes together pretty well. I think the KitchenAid does a little bit better job of mixing up the cookie dough, but it's still a good job. This is a good job. Like, I would be happy with this. I gotta go wash my hands before I lift that up. It has a fan, you can hear that too. Let me turn that off there. Release it, and then we can scoop out our dough balls.
I feel like bread is really where this Ooni Halo Pro shines. So I just am mixing up some sandwich bread here, and you add in the bar, and then you also add in the dough hook, and this just gives stability. It keeps the dough from like riding up the dough hook. It's really easy to use, and I think that they really had bakers in mind when they were building this machine, and pizza dough too. So any kind of doughs that you would make a lot, this is going to be a really good mixer for you. Watch how this comes together. It's actually really fun to watch, and the gluten development is really, really well done in this. I also like how half of the bowl you can kind of access, which is really nice for adding in ingredients. And then there's also a timer, and you can set the bowl to go for as long as you need it, or, you know, increase the speed or anything like that. And look how beautiful that dough comes together. Now, I was really excited to try this with a sourdough, because that is what you see a lot with the Ooni, is people making sourdough with it. I will say it's very easy to use. It's pretty intuitive, and you just literally put the ingredients in there, turn it on. I love the on button at the top, and just let it go. And it does a fabulous, fabulous job with making sourdough breads, pizzas, all of that. Now, this Ooni is expensive. It's going to be one of the most expensive, around $800, and it's brand new, so it's yet to be seen how the longevity is and things like that, but Ooni is a really good company.
Now that you've seen how all of these mixers perform, I hope that it gives you some insight into what would work best for you. If you don't bake bread very often, or you're not going to be making a lot of loaves, a KitchenAid may be perfect for you. It does great with cookies. It's probably my favorite. And whipped creams and frostings, and I love all the attachments that it goes with. The Bosch, if you are a bread baker, you want a tried and true trusted machine that's going to be great for breads. A Bosch is a great mixer. It's so reliable. that mixer can mix for days, it feels like. The motor won't burn out. It's a super reliable machine. And it does a really, really good job with sandwich loaves. Those types of loaves are probably my favorite to mix in there. So traditional, if you're just home making loaves, I think a Bosch would be great. If you want, a machine that looks really nice in your kitchen and, maybe have to be a little more hands-on, but it can do everything you want and will make great, even higher hydration doughs, the Ankarsrum, I love it. I love it for that. It was a little bit more of a learning curve, but I think it's worth it. And then if you really are like a major bread baker, make pizza all the time, make artisan loaves and sourdoughs all the time and want a mixer for that, the Ooni Halo Pro I've been so impressed with. And I really think that it would be a great asset to any kitchen, and it can do a lot of things. So that's my breakdown. Of course, you want to look at the price, go check out which one you think that you want and search for the best price. A lot of times there are good deals, especially around the holidays or even throughout the year. So check for those, and I hope that this helps you bake incredible bread.